And yes, we just recently returned from a trip around the world. We started in January of 2008, doing a little sightseeing and touring in Europe, then heading to Spain, still in Europe, to walk the Camino de Santiago. That was, it took us 500 kilometers across northern Spain. And then following our time in Spain, we traveled to Australia, where we spent the next 5-6 months volunteering for World Youth Day. And I guess the reason that we did all these things, the reason that we went, is because we heard a call. Now, in the Catholic faith, we hear a lot about calls, and often we understand that to be the vocational call. Like David and I were called to the vocation of marriage. There's obviously the call to religious life. But we also believe that we're called to live out our faith every day. And in that everyday calling, God calls us to many different things, big or little, big adventures, small adventures. It's not just those big, gigantic vocational calls, but something that moves your heart. It's that gut feeling that says, hey, I should do that. And so tonight, that's really what we're going to talk about. It's that, hey, I should do that call. But just as quickly as that feeling washes over you, that excitement that I must do that call, also comes a dreaded long list of reasons why you can't do this. Just practical, I just can't do this kind of reasons. But what we want to say to you tonight is that whatever that call is, it's worth considering. Certainly that list of fears, yes, it's worth considering too, but more often than not, it's that initial gut feeling, it's that initial call that's worth answering and acting upon. And so what we hope to do tonight is take you through our list of why I can't, help you eliminate them, and get you packing your suitcases and going. And so tonight we present to you, for the first time ever, David and Gillian's list of reasons we can't do this and think God is crazy for asking us to. And what's on that list isn't shocking, it's not surprising, it's nothing out of the ordinary. Basically it boiled down to time, money, distance, fear, and I just can't. So before we could begin this physical journey, before we could begin our traveling in 2008, we had to journey through these reasons and navigate how to turn these negatives into positives, figure out if they were real fears or if we were just making excuses.
So if I were to offer any advice to you if you felt a call and you had to approach your employer, I would say that you could explain how this experience would be great for your personal development, and there's no doubt that your personal development has a great link to how you perform professionally. If you're happy as a person, you're going to be happy working and you're going to do better at your work. Also, to be open to your company's suggestions, so be flexible. We had originally thought maybe we'd be gone for a year, but in the end 8 months seemed a little bit more realistic in terms of work, and it also fulfilled our call. It wasn't like we were compromising our call. And lastly, when you leave, to leave your position in a good state. At my work, I'm in charge of a number of clients and various projects. So before leaving, I made sure that I had completed all the major tasks, and it was all well organized so that when I handed them over to my colleagues who were already busy, it wasn't as least of a burden as possible.
Volunteering does not pay well. It is not the way to climb the corporate ladder or to buy a fancy car, just to make that absolutely clear in case anyone was thinking that. But what you lack in salary, you do make up for in that tremendous experience, and particularly in faith. Never before in our lives had David and I, either as a married couple or as individuals, experienced the cliche, God will provide. And he certainly will. When we took that step forward to say that yes, we'll accept this call to volunteer, God blessed us abundantly. Now, having said that, there are some practical things to consider to help you save money, to help you spend money wisely. And that's not necessarily saying we're brushing aside the hand of God in order to practically save this money, but we're using the tools that he's giving us in order to sensibly save this money that's going to allow us to take this trip for this long, for 8 months.
Just be open to the generosity of others. Sometimes this is harder than it sounds. But people will be very generous. Well, we were getting ready for our trip. Our colleagues, friends, family they just surprised us and blessed us with how generous they were. When we were on the Camino de Santiago, we were pilgrims, and people just automatically reached out to us, and we really had to learn how to receive graciously. When we were in Australia, we were volunteers, and people recognized that as well. And they seemed happy and eager to take us out for dinner and pay for us. So sometimes receiving like that can be difficult, either because of pride or your faith says, "Oh, God will provide for us. We don't need that." But one thing we really need to understand is that God's generosity is expressed through other people's generosity.
But what my parish priest said to me when I shared with him this fear, this worry, he had me repeat after him, "God is God, and I am not." So, humbling, but it helped me to let go. First of all, let go of pride, of anxiety, of fear, of any worry, and just let God be God and step out of the way, and realize that while you are away, life will go on, and that is okay.
I learned that prayer is incredibly powerful, and it's really what links you. And I kind of see prayer as a sixth sense. When you're gone away from people, your other senses, sight and touch, in terms of your family, are lost. So naturally, other senses are going to be heightened, and this sense of prayer, this power of prayer, just becomes so powerful, more than you can ever imagine.
But when God calls us, we suspect, it is very rare that he calls you from a comfortable situation and places you in another very similar, very comfortable situation. No, he calls you to move and to grow and to experience and to trust. And somewhere along the way, the list of "I just can'ts" become a list of "I just can't do this anymore." As much as we'd love to tell you that working for World Youth Day was the best thing we've ever done, it was up there, but it was also one of the hardest things we ever had to do. Simply because even though it is a faith environment, it's an event for the Catholic Church, it doesn't mean it's all skipping and jolly and happy and gospel singing. And it just feels like there's a spiritual battle constantly on our floor and within this department. So it was quite difficult many times. During that time, and someone new from the United States came up to us and said, "Hey, do you guys want to go for dinner?" And so we said, sure. He had recently found a 24-hour pancake house, and I guess thought, who better to take for pancakes than two Canadians? So here we go. And this was someone that we hadn't really met before. We hadn't had many conversations, so we were eager to get to know him. We hadn't shared with him our struggles or this discouragement that we were feeling. And at one point during the meal, he looked across the table at both of us and said, "You guys are here for a reason, you know that." And in that moment, the "I just can'ts" just disappeared. That doubt and the discouragement goes away. Boo-hoo. Because you know that, yes, God did call us, and God made us move, and we did the very best that we possibly could. So very grateful to Benjamin and that night of pancakes. So did we make the right choice to say yes to God's call? Yes, it says so right here in my notes. Yes. Yes, I think we can safely say that we did. And we know that he's not finished calling us, and that's the beautiful, wonderful, magnificent part of all this, is that he's going to continue calling us in our daily life to do a number of different things for him, whether it's in our new life as parents, participating more in our church, speaking at Theology on Tap. And we will do our best to pray. When we feel that call, we'll do our best to pray and discern and ultimately say that yes to God. And so we also hope that of you, that you will also say those yeses when you hear that call.